Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. This is Juliette Hahn here with my co-host, Brent Sopel. How are you? I was a little sing-songy.
Well, should we enlighten the crowd as you go to hit record, you're with it. Well, that is never the case.
Fuck off. I'm very with it. I might not be all with it, but I can hit record.
What's your definition with it? Let's just start there.
I don't know. This is going to go out. So the last week was dyscalculia, which I already posted a couple. I'm going to start with this really quickly. I already posted a couple clips because it's so interesting how many people that we talked to. I just talked to like 3 different parents that were like, wait, I don't even know what you're saying. What are the words that you're saying? And their kids just got diagnosed with dyslexia. And I'm like, okay, who diagnosed? If you don't know those words.
Well, we can, not touching upon that, the dyscalculia, obviously, let's just cover the 5 Ds, right? Dyslexia, dysgraphia, right? The writing portion, dyscalculia, the math portion, dyspraxia, the verbal portion, and ADHD. Obviously, we all know what we're talking about 4. It's an interesting lead into, we weren't even going to talk about this, but New York, starting that.
I don't know where you're going. So you gotta...
they're starting the dyslexia, dysgraphia.
Oh, right. The legislation.
Right.
That they've been trying to get done for a little while, which is we're diving into it. It's very interesting. There's a senator, right? Is he a senator or congressman? I think he's a
I think he's
I'm not going to try to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into the history of my politics because I don't. He's just someone.
Know.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a senator. I think he's a governor of one of the districts.
Yes, I think that's something.
And they're starting the dysgraphia, dyslexia Senate or
there was a center, and then there's a new school that's also coming out that we've heard a number of people, and I think it's a charter school, not 100%. There's a new charter school, and then there's also I think a private school that are by someone else, and so we started looking a little bit into them. But that brought up, it's so interesting because if you look at the percentages, and this is what we talked on last week's episode, so we're not going to go too much into it, but a lot of people have reached out and been like, oh my gosh, especially when I posted that clip of you explaining each of the 5 Ds and how you explain it, because so many parents, and literally just the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 different parents that were like, I don't know what you're saying. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, okay, they just got diagnosed. And so I broke it down and they're like, oh wait, but they do have this. And then it's like, well, who did you go to get tested? And they were always in the school. And it is like, okay, because then you have to break it down for the parent, right? And it's so rewarding to hear when a parent says, and you've been, been doing this. I've been talking to like parents, small scale. You talk to people every single day. It is so rewarding when they say, oh my gosh, I thank you so much. Like I just was able to talk and someone says, I understand. And that, again, that's why we do this podcast. That's why we always, the understanding is such an important thing. And that is like the depths of who you are, like with your newsletter. If you guys are not a part of Brent's newsletter on LinkedIn or at the website, sopelfoundation.org, you can put your email in. Brent does a newsletter and it's called Misunderstood. And sometimes it's just updating on things that's happening with the foundation, but other times it's like an experience that has happened. And it is the misunderstanding that happens all the time. And some weeks it's more exhausting than others. This week, I've had a week because of, just there. And you've had a week. I mean, I believe there's something in the universe, but we'll just keep it there.
Imagine it's, Uranus is in the wrong spot or whatever you call it.
I'm not going to get into, but there
retrograde.
Yes.
That's what it is. Yeah, there. I haven't heard about retrograde lately. What's going on over there?
Because that's coming in July. But no, there's a planet that's moving into a position that hasn't happened in 30 years. So, and I'm not going to get into it. But so there's a lot of upheaval.
Hang on. How the fuck do you know that?
From the astrologists. So, anyways, so there is a lot. If everyone thinks about, they're like, oh my God, she has a point. It's been a shit show for the last couple of weeks. So talking to these parents as they're like ending school,
Yeah.
thinking about next school, and we wanted to talk about the summer because this is where everyone goes like nutso, right? It's like, oh my God, I can't let them lose too much. I can't let them, I need to keep tutoring them. The other episode when we talked about at what cost, that's another one. We got so many parents and so many people, just sending messages and really talking in the post that we did. Oh my gosh, I never thought about it this way. Or thank you for saying this because I felt like I was wrong, right?
It's the summertime. Let's just be clear. If you got any of the 5Ds, school isn't easy. School's a hard place. You're misunderstood. Even if you do get good grades, you're not fully understood. If that's just straight, ADHD, or if that's straight dyslexia, or it's a combination of 2 to 3, or you're 4 to 5, like myself. School isn't a place where we feel comfortable, where we strive. We talked about, so-and-so, my son or daughter gets 90s. It's just, but she stays up to 4 a.m.
Right.
At what cost is that? And obviously that was last week's episode. At what cost does it take to get to those? So it's summertime. Just let go of school.
Let them breathe.
Let them breathe. If that's swimming, which swimming sucks. You ever seen a rock swim? That's how Brent swims.
We all have our strengths.
Oh yeah, swimming.
It's very good that where you grew up it was ice instead.
Yeah, swimming is not one of them. Is it track? Is it just playing in the sandbox? It's, you take a look at how many times you're working. You needed a vacation, right? You needed a mental break from work. That's what the kids need from school. It is as much as, a fourth grader, a fifth grader, or, second grader, or an eighth grader, or, a ninth grader, as you guys, it took me years to figure out this. You guys call them a freshman. It's a job going to school. When you don't fit in somewhere, when you don't feel comfortable walking in those doors, it's a job. Let them just decompress. Let them play sports, have fun, run wild, use that term however you want to use it, but they just need to get away. They need to get away of like for me, it'd be, was it 8 months school? August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. 10 months?
10 months. No. Yeah.
10 months. Holy fuck. So think of 10 months of, obviously electric chair, of torture, of 10 months of stress, of not being heard, not being understood, not understanding. That's what the next 2 months is. Just to kind of think of it as the bathtub. You're just draining it for the next 2 months. Because then when they go back next year, you got 10 more months of not being understood, not feeling comfortable. Why doesn't this girl like me? Why doesn't this boy like me? Why can't I have this friend? Why can't I do this? Why do I have to go to this class? Why do I have to leave in the middle of this class? The last 2 years, how many things have you and I figured out about ourselves having these conversations?
so many. It's like fucking epiphany after epiphany. I'm exhausted.
Right. But it's,
yeah.
kids don't know, the point of figuring out why I didn't take a pregame nap while I played an 18-year pro and did something that only 1,200 people ever in the history of the world have ever done. It took me to fucking 45 years old or whatever it was to figure that out. So these kids don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just let them be. They may be in the corner trying to pile marbles on top of each other. Or they're taking a popsicle stick and who knows what. If it was my dog, probably putting her butt and dragging it down the hallway. But they just need to be kids, because for the last 10 months, they weren't allowed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, it's because they had to go to school. That's why they weren't allowed to be. It's got nothing to do with it. As parents, we always know we got to go back in those doors at school.
Yep. I was going to say, because I know parents right now. And so I know there's so many moms and dads, mainly moms that are listening to this being like, I can't do that. They're going to get behind. And oh my God, what about a schedule? What about this? What about that? So I want you to take a breath. You're sitting here listening and starting to tweak because you're like, I can't do that. The school told me if they take a break, they're going to go behind and behind and behind. And then you guys talk about self-esteem and all of these things.
School.
Yeah. So, and also I'm thinking about where my kids were raised, where your kids were raised. It's not just an area that you're just like, people are just be. They don't let kids be because it's like, well, no, they have to do this. They have to do this. But I want you to think about this for a moment. Okay. Because and I'm not saying that I did it better, but I did it for Montgomery because I knew what I needed. So I was able to be like, you know what, I'm not throwing this down his throat. We talked about, we didn't do tutoring after school. And there was a lot of parents that were like, okay, but you just said he was struggling so much. So why wouldn't you give him, why? That's mean, right? They thought it was mean that I didn't do it. And I was like, no, he needs to go play sports. He needs to do something that he is good at, that he loves. And instead of doing something all the time. Yes, there is a part that can strengthen. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, for a visual purpose to what you just said is doing extra tutoring for kids, that are struggling with dyslexia. It's not the same thing. Struggling for a kid with dyslexia doesn't mean the same thing as a kid struggling without dyslexia.
Right. That is a great point.
Right.
Absolutely great point.
When you say tutoring after, just think of sitting there for another hour with a needle, poking the kid with dyslexia. Mm-hmm. Poking them. Now, a kid without, and I should refer as, the kid with, the 5 Ds, one of the 5 Ds, poking with a pin every time, just nonstop for an hour. Mm-hmm. Now, a kid struggling without the 5 Ds in school, there's no pen, no pin, right? Mm-hmm. They're two different things, completely different things. So I just wanted to paint that picture a little bit.
No, and it's so true because it's such a fine line, but you have to give the kid with some of the 5 Ds a break just to decompress. And you also need to find that thing that they're good at. Yeah. So like a parent right now might be like, yeah, but I need them in that tutoring thing. I need them because they feel behind. They are asking for tutoring. They're asking for this. They're asking that. It is a very individual thing. But if your kid is a kid that kicks and screams and is like, oh, I got to do this again. And you see them slowly shrinking you're doing the wrong thing. And I don't mean to call you out on it. There's some kids that want it. I have a niece that is like, she wants it because she hates feeling behind. And she's like, I want that. Now, I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but she doesn't kick and scream to go. She'd rather do that than sports. She actually feels confident doing it. She's like, okay, I get it now. Now, and there's a different diagnosis. So like you have to know your kid. If your kid is like, screaming, or just like you could see them just shrinking and just feeling like you can't do it. You have to give them something else. So put them in the camp that is the sports camp. Put like, if you're like, no, I work, what I need them to do something. We're not saying not do anything. We're not
Right.
like, I know we were saying in the sandbox, but like, yes, you can still have the structure. If that's something that's tweaking you and you're like, oh my God, but I have to do that. I don't have time. I need to do this.
Yes.
There's many other things than
Right,
the tutoring
100%.
and then the after school or the summer school, all of those things. Like you have to think about your child and their brain and their,
The structure, I think, is, the structure is fine. I think you made a great point. Is, if you need structure, if you got to work, putting them in things is no problem. I don't mean them.
Yeah.
When I mean just be is not doing school. And I think obviously that's why the foundation obviously is very different than everybody else's. Self-esteem, right? As you just mentioned, if you're putting a kid into something, that they struggle in, and they look in there, oh, I did do this again. They just kind of do that. Are they learning anything?
Mm-mm.
Rather than, oh my God, I get to go and do, right? So, they can go and play camps or whatever it is. It's more when I mean let them be is let them get away from school.
Yeah. I mean, there's other things that like, I also, I knew so many friends that did the piano and they fucking hated it. And they used to fight with their parents all the time. And their parents, I mean, I still, again, the towns that I grew up in, that's something you did because the piano strengthens something. There's all these philosophies. Okay. I truly believe.
What do you strengthen in piano?
You're asking the wrong person because I did not have to take piano.
I could say, I got a few good things I could say.
Say, what are you going to say?
Twinkle toes or well, like what?
I don't know what you. That's okay. I don't know why I said say it. I don't know why I thought you. There is something with the brain hand coordination. There is something that piano is supposed to be like chess. There's things that are supposed to be really good for a kid in development that the scientists have say. So there's certain environments that people do it because it's like, oh wait,
imagine that the scientists said that. Yeah, let's follow the scientists. Yeah. Well, again, if they enjoy it,
right,
that's great. That is what we're talking about, right? If your kid enjoys playing piano, great. That is awesome. I'd rather put my head through a fucking barbed wire fence and spin it around but to me, that's school, right? So if they enjoy it, obviously I make fun of things and have fun with things, but if they're enjoying something, it's easy. It's self-esteem.
It's the self-esteem. And I don't mean to interrupt you because this is the thing, because there's parents out there that are like, well, you can't enjoy everything, right? You're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to do things that are not there. That's how society has said we are supposed to do things, but that's actually not correct. And that's why, go ahead.
No, I don't mean to cut you off because you said, I remember you saying, I think it might've been last week. You said, my job isn't a job because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
So you said I'm learning so much, about with fed tech and the research world. I'm enjoying it. I'm working a lot, but it doesn't feel like I'm working. Correct? Is that what you said?
Correct. Yeah.
So to your point, that's what I didn't mean to cut you off. To your point is, you're learning all this stuff, but you're enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not it's a different firing of the brain. It's like, I enjoy doing cocaine. Makes you feel good. Rather than a downer, than smoking weed, right? That wasn't, so what am I going to do more of, right? Things that make you feel good, right? So it's not a job to you anymore, right? What do they always say? If you do a job that you love, it's not a job.
Right. But in society, we are taught Sometimes you have to do things that you don't like. And certain personalities, you're actually not supposed to do things you're not supposed to like because it brings you down. And then when you get brought down, you're bringing others down. So, like, think about a kid in that sense. Like, yes, there's things sometimes that we have to do because it's life, right?
Right.
I don't like to do the laundry. I don't like to do the dishes, but I have children and I decided to have them. So that's
No,
like
make
a
them do
part.
that. Make them do it.
Oh, actually, they actually do all of it now.
That's
That's part of their
Is that why
chores.
you had kids?
Yeah. So right, I don't do. And I'm also not good at those two things. So that everyone else is like, oh, we'll do it.
Oh, you
But
probably do that purposely. Just pretend you're bad at it. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
actually I got a good stain out, and everyone was like, "Mom's not going to be able to do it." And I was like, "Everyone go fuck off! I can get stains out," and I did get a good stain out. And I was like, "Okay, everyone needs to now say sorry." They were very impressed that I did get a stain out.
Wow. Look at you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
The
throw
number
every
one stain remover.
yeah, yeah, and I did like a different technique. I was like, I think this is going to take the stain out. No one, they were like, no way, no way. The
By
way
the
I do
way,
laundry,
my dog fucking snores like,
oh, so loud, I can't
oh
hear
yeah.
her.
Oh no, yeah. She's like, this thing is unbelievable.
She's so happy right now.
Oh, she snores louder than grandma. Oh yeah. Okay.
I didn't snore.
Well, this thing
Um,
snores. This thing falls asleep in a second on your lap. Mhm.
it's good to be a dog. But there is a very fine line. And there's things, yes, that we have to do. But really, when it comes to kid and when it comes to adults, like if you hate something so much, as you always say, you're not going to learn. You're not
Right.
going to retain anything. You're going to be pissed off. So, like, what is the fucking point? So let's think about this. It's that fine line, but knowing your kid, knowing, okay, is this good for them? Is it not good for them? Not just doing it because you're being told that you have to do that. That's like the self-awareness that we talk about that, as you said, the last 2 years, the things that we were like, oh, interesting. Okay, that's why I do that. Or this is what, there's so many different things that people just go through the motions in life. Oh, I was told by the school I have to do this. Oh, I was told by the doctor I have to do this.
Right.
No, stop and think for fucking a second for yourself and think about the others around you. Is it actually what you need or is it something else?
Well, and we all want the best for our kids.
Of course.
We're all, oh, I'm going to put my kid in, piano, for example, or we're going to put in, an extra tutoring because we want the best for the kids. We never want the kids. We understand completely. And that's why we do this. That's why we talk about this. That's why, the 5Ds are where they were in the world. It's because it's the scientists and the people that don't have it are telling you what to do. Right. So if you have confidence, if you got self-esteem, you're going to succeed. So jamming an apple down your throat when you're allergic to apples usually doesn't work out too well.
Mm-hmm.
Cutting up in little pieces makes it a little easier. So yes, are some of the stuff we're saying, is it opposite of what you're being told? Yes. Are we saying this stuff to be defiant or, to be different? No.
No. And there's going to be people that are like, okay, well, what do we do? Right. So like if my kid is behind, what do I do? If they, they are doing Wilson during school and it is succeeding, like what do I do in the summer? So
let's talk, you just brought up, a great point.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in on it. My kid, my girls did Wilson. They fucking hated it. So when you go into do reading programs for dyslexia, it is very tedious. It's very slow.
It's hard
sliding, so they're happy they did it now, right? Being 21 and 23 years old, they're ecstatic they did it now. Was it painful back then? Yeah. So sometimes less is more. And that's what we're trying to say in the summertime. They're struggling. Okay. Are you making it further by doing something painful 3 days a week or one day? So
and then doing something fun that they choose. Right? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
go ahead.
you're 100%. That makes them smile. Because, how many people quit their job because they hate going to the office every day, or they hate the people they work with, or they hate their boss? Same thing with school.
Mm-hmm. And so also these are the things to think about. So as Brent said, like if it's something that your kid is in the middle of and you're like, well, what do I do? But they hate it. And it's a fight because it's also exhausting, right? Being the parent fighting all the time. I mean, that's exhausting. And so you need to kind of think about that. As he said, maybe do it one day a week, but then, hey, what camp do you want to do? If you do this one day a week, you get to pick your camp, right? Or you get to pick the activity that we could do afterwards. So making it like you have to do this. And the reason why you have to do this right now is because you are behind because you're dyslexic, and having a conversation with them, like this is going to make things easier. I know it doesn't seem like it, but don't do it every day, right? Don't do the 5 days. Don't do it where it's just that. And then I know with your girls, you guys did it a little different. Like with Montgomery, I did not do any tutoring. Then we sent him to the private school. That was all Orton Gillingham, right? But that's like very unrealistic for most people. We were just very fortunate that that's what it did. But I knew I wasn't going to have him being tutored after school. I knew in the morning to get him to school before. Dan was in the city already. I had 2 babies. I couldn't like get him to school before. So that would have been a shit show too. So I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? It figured itself out. We were very fortunate. But then we left the private school before he was finished. And we just happened to, when he was going into middle school, 7th grade, there was a teacher that was like a resource room or a study hall teacher that knew about Orton Gillingham and was like, you know what, I'm going to work with him. And we just were fortunate. There's not, like, I can't say how fortunate we were, but that's not going to happen all the time. So you have to, again, think about your kid, think about what is the best, like do your research, do your studying, but also it comes down to that self-esteem.
Yeah. Oh, my girls, we did it before school.
Yeah.
Was it it would have been torture any which way. Right. Before school, middle school, during the day, because and we talk about this. We weren't pulling, and Lila did get pulled out of math a lot of times. So guess what? She was terrible at math.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
So it's 6 of these, half dozen lows. Like, you're struggling with reading, but we're going to pull them out of math. So what sense does that make? So we're now going to be struggling at 2 things rather than 1. I'm not good at math. So,
and then if they have dyscalculia, then it's like a double whammy.
Right. So I always, for me, you and I talk about never pull the kid out of a class to go into another one to work on that, especially when you're dyslexic. We're never going to be readers. That's just not happening. Can we get a little bit better? Yeah. So why sacrifice one for the other? And it's sacrifice more than one. The other is sacrifice walking out of a class. Oh, where are you going, Brent? Why are you leaving? Oh, you're going to the dumb room? Oh, you're just dumb. Those are the things that get said.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is, sometimes when you're in the public school or private school, your kid doesn't have a choice because that's what they're going to do is pull out if that's how they do it. And it's a fight. And sometimes you can't, I know in the school that Montgomery was in, gifted and talented kids got pulled out as well. So it was like, you didn't know where you were going. Everyone kind of like, and especially, but these are the questions you have to ask. Like, these are the questions you have to ask. And again, what is best for your child? Not because the school's going to tell you, right? They're going to tell you what they do, but wait a second. Is that going to be the best for my kid? How about we do this? Or like you said, they get tutored in the morning before instead of getting pulled out. I would rather do that. That works for our family better. They're going to say no, but you can fight for that. That is something that you can fight for.
Mm-hmm. You tell them, and that's what you end up having a 504 or an IEP. You tell them.
Yeah.
Do not let them tell you.
Yeah. Exactly.
What works for your kid, and question, as you said, the kids are left for gifted and talented and, the whatever, the slow readers. they still know you left, right?
Yeah, they still don't. I have to say though, Montgomery actually, he would say he would sometimes like to leave because it was a break
Mm.
and because no one knew where he was going. But as you said, if you're the only person getting pulled out, we were also fortunate with technology. Like it was that when he was young, so everyone's like, "Wait, why do you get an iPad? That's so cool, right?" But then there's a
Well,
certain age that it's not cool anymore, and
and Lila was the opposite of
hated
that.
that. Right? She hated that.
She was dysgraphic. She was the only one. So this is pre-technology, right? She was the only one that had it. Oh,
Right?
why do you have it? Why am I that kid? Why am I the only one kid? Right? So Montgomery obviously, for the most part, kids are mean, right? Kids aren't
Yeah.
nice, right? So they usually take the opposite, right? Not, oh, that's cool, right? Why are you the one? Hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you different? What's wrong? Like
Right.
they usually take that route. And Lila was that one. She wouldn't, she had
But
dysgraphia and she wouldn't use her computer
right.
or her
But she
iPad.
also, if you think about who you were, she was also center of attentions in different ways, right? So like could that have had also like, you know,
Oh yeah, my kids obviously grew up very different than
yeah.
that.
So like,
That portion, that perspective.
yeah.
Everybody knew who we are, wherever we went, and why, and
Right. So that's
center
like,
of
oh my God,
attention.
now I'm being, now everyone knows about this and that. So like, that's really, that's different, but that's why it's important to know about it for your child. Like talk to your child, ask them like, hey, what did you like in school today? Or what do you like and what don't you like? But just getting these kind of senses of knowing who they are, you're able to then navigate these. And as Brent said, with the 504 and IEP, you can say, no, I'm not doing that. Like, there's one of the times there was a teacher that was the special ed teacher for math, and Montgomery had her, and he's like, she talks to me like I am deaf and like I'm a dummy. He's like, I cannot deal with this again. So the next year, we didn't have a choice. I was like, I'm putting him on grade level. I was like, dude, he's like, Mom, I would so much rather, I don't care. I probably am going to fail. But if I have to deal with her one more time, and instead of him not saying anything, right? Like if he didn't say anything, he would have been put in there. And he's like, she makes me feel so bad about myself. Like, I mean, I think there was one day she called, and this is like when they were in middle school, and she said, okay, so he's not getting this. And I keep explaining it. I'm like, are you explaining it different? She's like, well, no, I'm explaining it the same way, just slower. And I'm like, what? She's like, and then I
Do you
offer like,
understand what I am saying?
yes, totally. And then she said, and then like, if like the kids get it, I offer them a snack. I was like, they're not dogs. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I said to him, I was like, honey, I'm so sorry that you even had to deal with this for even, we pulled him out, I think half of the year. I was like, nope, you're putting him in there. They're like, Miss Han, he hasn't even learned that. And I was like, we're fine. I was like, he you know what?
Oh, but you're missing the point. Were they good snacks?
No, not even good snacks. It
Oh, that's terrible then.
was like dry pretzels or something like so stupid.
Something that you'd eat.
I don't know.
Some
I like
unreal chocolate. Oh, I binged on some unreal chocolate.
I like the dark chocolate, whatever. But so again, it's
So bad.
It's not so bad. It's so good.
Chewing on fucking sawdust.
Pretzels are. I have to say, I have to be like pretzels and cream cheese. I don't mind. I actually like a good pretzel and cream cheese. Have you ever? Oh, you've never tried pretzels and cream cheese?
First off, cream cheese is disgusting.
Oh, I love cream cheese. How can you not? Okay, I don't like mayonnaise. I like cream cheese. Mayonnaise makes. I don't like mayonnaise. No. Ew.
Mayo, mayonnaise. What's the other? Miracle Whip.
No.
Anything with texture. Me and textures aren't friends.
Yeah, but you like ketchup. Doesn't that have like a little bit of a? I guess that's not really a texture.
So does my dog. She has a pillow. She's got a Heinz pillow. Oh, for Father's Day, I got a ketchup shirt.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh. And she's got a squeaky toy with ketchup.
I mean, I guess ketchup doesn't have a texture, but cream cheese doesn't really have a texture. Okay, whatever. This is like an attention deficit moment. Anyways, it was not a good snack. It was a pretzel. Okay. But again, we were able to have a conversation about it. And I think so much of us, when we're lost in school and everyone's frustrated, it gets lost on the kid because the kid is not doesn't say, yeah, no,
Well,
this doesn't feel good or this feels good. And because sometimes they don't even know. As you say, I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
no, and a lot of times if you're the parent that doesn't have one of the 5Ds, it seems what they're saying seems very odd, different, stupid. Like, what are you talking about? Right. But just take a second, ask a few more questions, because our brains are wired differently. So did you think I was going to say that?
No, I liked it. Actually, I liked how you said that. Yeah, no, that's very true. Ask more questions. I thought you were going to shut it down or kind of shut it down. No, but it's so true. And it's just that conversation of letting your kid feel seen and heard. Hey, I know things are hard. We've had a lot of discussions about this. I know things are hard. I want to be able to help you the best I can. Let's have a conversation and start when they're little, kindergarten, pre-K. What are some of the things that you like? What are the things? My kids actually the other day were like, oh my God, we remember I used to do this thing, happy, angry, sad, and frustrated. So when the kids came home, I would say, what is one thing that made you happy today? What is one thing that made you frustrated?
So annoying.
So annoying. But when they were little, they used to do it. And now they laugh. They're like, the only reason why you did it is because you wanted us to ask you what made you frustrated. I was like, no, I didn't. I think it's funny that they say that now. I really did. I know that they're like, yeah, that's why you did that. But as corny as it sounds, it actually gave me a lot of insight in different things. And then it was shut down. Then it was like, that I think I got like a good year of it. And then it was like,
and my first thought was, fuck that. Hearing those words suck because I don't even know myself.
Right. And half the time you forgot. Like usually it's at the end of the day, you get a little piece, but I would get tiny little pieces of things that I was like, okay.
And we, and a lot of the, we talk about this all the time, is a lot of times we're still trying to figure all this out. Like when we're 50 years old, we're still trying to figure out what that meant and what that made us feel. Right. It's just so different than anything else. Right. So at the end of the day, we're exhausted.
Yeah.
So it's piecing their responses back, listening to what they say, because that, like you said, can give you a lot of insight if they say the same thing, 2 or 3 days in a row, where they're trying to say the same thing. And it's almost like a little, a massive 5,000 piece puzzle where you as odd as it might sound, you just might have to just listen.
Yeah. And you get like a little sliver of something. As you said, they might say something like a couple of times. Like I remember Montgomery would say X, Y, and Z. Said, why does I scribble? Why do I scribble? And he would say it. And so I knew it was also bothering him. Right. Like I'd be like, okay, do you feel like you scribble? And he's like, well, I can't stay on the lines. This is when he was getting diagnosed with dysgraphia, and he couldn't. I mean, he literally could not. And so, we would have conversations about it. Like, okay, well, and I don't even remember what I said, but whatever I said made him feel better. Like, he'd be like, okay. And then he would skip off. And then, I think I gave him words to say or whatever it was. And I know people are like, well, what didn't you say? I don't
I'm sure you said, tell him to fuck off.
I know in my head, I wanted to tell them to say that. I mean, yeah, there was a couple of times where like, well, just because, they're weird. And so they're whatever. No.
What did you say about the one kid who's reading kindergarten, but he's weird?
Poor Penelope, when she was 4 and she thought she was dyslexic, and she's like, and she said his name, and I go, well, there's something wrong with him. You shouldn't be reading at that age. That's weird. Stay away from him. And actually, we ended up being good friends with them. But he could read at 4. Like, really, he was obviously brilliant, and his parents were brilliant, but he could read like almost like, I think it was like a 4th grade level at like 4. Like he was like yes. And then all Penelope's like,
doing now?
You could do that.
Working on SpaceX or somewhere?
Yeah, I don't know. Because it was in Connecticut. I don't know what he's doing.
Wow.
Yeah, really smart. Really smart.
Not working. Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy. And, but
Well,
I said,
well, to that, so listen, I was reading at a grade 4 level in high school, and he was
right.
reading at a grade 4 level at 4.
4. Right. Isn't that crazy? Right. But that's also, I was just going to say to you, no one asked you, hey, what do you like in school, or what are you struggling? Like, this is the thing. Like, I always would say gym. If anyone asked me,
100%.
gym and lunch.
100%. Recess.
Right? Recess. Yeah. That was my favorite.
I hate it. I hate everything about school.
Yeah. So like those little things, like there could have been insight. So all we're saying is just talk to your kids. If they're really like complaining this summer about certain things, just think about it. Like think about you having to do something that you fucking hate so much. Like give them a little bit of a break. Give them a little bit of a break.
Because you can right now, right? During the school year, you can't.
Right.
I understand you got your scheduled, but this is the time.
Yeah, it is. And don't forget LinkedIn. You can go to Brent Sopel and you can sign up for his newsletter. And then also you can go to the website, sopelfoundation.org. And if you put your email on there, we don't spam. It's nothing like that. It's just some insight on different things that you might find interesting. Thank you again for joining another episode of Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. And don't forget to like, rate, review, and share. You don't know who is in the summer or going into the summer. I know New York, we still got a couple weeks. Except they're in finals. So like today, and that's all of a sudden everything changed. I was like, wait, you need to be picked up when? I was like, oh, okay, no, hold on. We all need to talk and communicate.
June 16th. Imagine that.
Yeah. Crazy.
New York. Well,
27th is the graduation. He still has the prom like the 25th or something.
Here, like there's some colleges, kids are home by May 15th.
Yeah. Oh, in our summer community, we have all the summer people are here already. So like we're like booming and our kids are like, I mean, it's very interesting. It's an interesting place to.
You picked it.
I know. Shut up. Okay, like, rate, review, and share. We'll see you for another episode.